first item of business is calendar correspondence.
We had a conflict today with the Tax Advisory Committee and Spring Transit. So Commissioner Ozias has chosen to forego Spring Transit, and they would love to have you, Commissioner Chapman, if you're interested.
Would you rather do transit?
Yeah, no, I'd rather do the, so, are you gonna be able to go to the transit?
Yeah, I'll plan for that. So, you guys check with Mary, it doesn't go longer.
You have a forum. She asked me to extend an invitation to you to go to the conference. So are you interested or not? So again, Logic Tax Advisory Committee at 2:30, and I'll be in the boardroom. You have the William Shore Memorial Pool District meeting tomorrow at 3. And that's all I've got for this week. Next week, Commissioner Peach will be in Olympia at the Board of Natural Resources meeting. And I have some documents for you for that.
Super.
The following week, the 5th, or next week, the 29th?
The 5th. And on Friday, we have the April 1st, so 2 weeks out, is the Salish Behavioral Health Organization.
I moved a couple of things around, I'm gonna do my best, so when we're going to that, so I'm gonna do my best to attend that for all.
Okay.
Are they having that at Jamestown?
Jamestown, so.
Yeah, Iowa Council Chambers.
1 o'clock?
10
10 o'clock.
And you just emailed an agenda over the weekend for that meeting. So you should have that in your email box somewhere.
This is the one we're going to put all 3 commissioners?
Yeah, this is the one with all 3 county commissioners.
And when's the finance committee?
Thursday, next
24th.
Is that, in what time is it?
9
It's at
a.m.
9 a.m.
No,
It's right here, once you add it to our calendar, I suspect 2 or more commissioners may meet.
We also have
Do you want me to do a special meeting notice then?
Probably be a good thing, just to be careful, just so folks know.
Do we have an agenda for it?
Are going to be attending.
Yes, we do.
I have the agenda, I can forward it to you, the treasurer put out the agenda last week.
And I'll be
That would be helpful
as
to
well.
include that in
So
special
if we
meeting
can,
notice.
yeah, if we can do the notice.
We also have the 1:30 on the 24th, an elected official department head meeting that we're going to be, at this point, I haven't heard from any of the commissioners that they're coming, but it's that time.
What time is it?
1:30 on Thursday.
In the pool?
I'm going to have a brief description or a demonstration during that one of the C-Clip Fix app that I was talking about a couple weeks ago, about where people can put that app on their smartphone and click a problem like a pothole or a tree across the road, and it'll be submitted to the county. So we're going to show that to elected officials and see how many think that's worthwhile for their department.
Anything else this week? This week, we have the special meeting with the charter review on the 8th,
That is going to be part of your work session.
but it's set for the afternoon.
No, they're going to do the 9 a.m. I don't know where the 10:30 came from.
We had it set, we said 1:30. To do a special afternoon, because it's going to take a couple hours, just to try to review, you figured.
Okay, I will talk to Norma because she was planning on 9 is what the email said, because I had them at 9:30 as well, so.
I got the email that I saw, I said 1:30
And that was your choice to have it later at 1:30?
I mean, if you have any idea what, work session, of course, if there was not much to do in the morning, we could do it in the morning, we won't know until Wednesday, so.
Probably not. My understanding is they just wanted to talk about the ombudsman piece. I understood were the Office of Citizen Complaints. I think that's the only other maybe loose end that from their recommendations.
We'll work when you know what's, and if we can, April or 9?
But that's what she thought they were doing it, so.
I don't want to mess up our schedule, so we'll keep it at 9 and if we have to move anything in the afternoon, we will.
Okay.
Okay.
So we need to change it on our work session agenda where it says 1:30.
The upcoming events.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any correspondence?
All received an email from Bob Martin addressing some concerns that Judy Larson had about culture sewer. There's a copy attachment, there are attachments that go along with that email. And then the company, and this is on your agenda for tomorrow, to enter into an agreement with Ken Brio for the review of Jim's performance review. And it says he's floating April 20th and 21st as the day he can be here for personal interviews and an executive session. And you check your own calendar and check with your fellow commissioners to see if those dates are good. That was from Commissioner Rosales. So April 20 and 21, and would he interview each of you? Is that what the intent is?
Yes, well, I think, if I remember correctly, he does an interview with Jim and then does an executive session with three of us. I don't recall.
Okay.
I don't have the contract in front of me right now. I don't recall if he would interview each of us individually. I don't think so.
So 21st, how was that?
20th is a Wednesday, I'll be in Forks.
Okay, so you need a Thursday.
And then we have Clallam Field on that day.
I think we moved it because of the baseball. Oh, it's just a placeholder. Okay, I'll double check that.
Anytime Thursday.
I thought we moved it to the 20th. I will double check. I think we moved that to the 20th because of the baseball game. I'll double check. But any other conflicts on the 21st?
Okay. We'll work to get those time frames nailed down as quickly as possible.
That's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Amendment 1 to First Step Family Support Center extending the contract. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
These are purely extensions of current contracts that have been in existence for a long time. We want to extend them to the end of the year, December 31st, so that they can be put into our regular RFP cycle. We don't have to do separate RFPs now and then a whole different set in the fall. Both of them are funded out of dedicated tax funds. They still have money. They've been underspent over the years. The one from First Step Family Support is a parenting support where one or more of the individuals, the parents of children, have a developmental disability, and it's a support program to help them be better parents and to allow the children can stay in the home, or at least with these individuals can stay involved in their children's lives rather than CPS involvement or rather than looking at someone else. The mental health one, the mental behavioral health is a stopgap that we can use for individuals that cannot qualify in other ways that may have mental health issues along the way. We have a lot of grief, mourning, other issues that come up, and there is a dedicated person in mental health that is qualified as a developmental disabilities counselor. So this is something that we have then funded out of that. We use Medicaid funds, whatever is available first. And this is for those instances where individuals need the counseling and do not get it otherwise.
Any particular reason why the dedicated tax funds have been underspent?
It goes up and down. We've had some years where we've used every penny of it. Right now, they have been underspent this year just because it's down. We did get a couple new parents in the parenting program. Again, that kind of goes up and down. We had a couple parents, unfortunately, that passed away, and that changed things. And mental health obviously goes up and down every month. Somebody goes into counseling, somebody leaves counseling, so that's what's been happening.
There was an issue that kind of kicked around at the last budget review, Mark, and it's especially the case within Iva's department, because she has so many programs, that quite a fair amount of them over time have accumulated funds. And so kind of one issue is, if we were to consolidate those into a single location, would we have more flexibility if one of the funds needed more than the dedicated reserve for it? It's a bit complex, but at least the issue's been, the flag's in the air on that one, and we may pick it again when budget comes up.
This particular fund is dedicated, it's a dedicated tax fund for developmental disabilities under state statute. So it's really a nice thing that we have, that some counties don't have or have a very small one. We have always had good flexibility to be able to address these kind of needs. That's great.
Scheduled for tomorrow, looks like it's time sensitive a little bit, so.
A little bit, and we didn't see anything in the least bit controversial or for the public, it's just an extension.
No change in your conditions.
We're 2A for tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is the funding request for community services budget emergency.
Good morning, Jim. I came before you on February 22nd, and I may not have been as clear as I should have been. What we were asking for is a debatable emergency hearing. The funds, at first I thought were just a supplemental budget, but it was not. We have to do the debatable emergency. Nothing else has changed.
Anything to add?
No, we just, again, in the second step with our budget director, Debbie, discovered that no, this money was in fact coming out of ending fund balance, not supplemental money that wasn't previously accounted for. So we had to change it to that, and she's added it to the budget hearing monthly on March 29th. So just wanted to let you know, you had seen it. It was, when it first came, it was a supplemental appropriation. It was not, that was in there.
So
Yes.
I assume she's working her 40 hours, didn't get cut back.
Oh, that wouldn't be till after April 1st.
We're good. Okay, any questions? Thank you very much. Okay, now we have an agreement with the Washington State Military Department, U.S. Department of Homeland Security to support state and local efforts to prevent terrorism and other catastrophic events.
This is, I believe, our sixth Stone Garden grant. This one is for $310,000 and $310,045. Over 50% of the grant has to be used for overtime, so there's $151,000 that goes for overtime for all of the different entities that are participating. That's our benefits. There's $137,907 for equipment. I think almost 3/4 of the agency are getting different types of equipment. The sheriff's office is using some of our funds to get 9 replacement MPTs. So this is actually the second set of replacement MPTs for those original MPTs that we got for one of the earlier Stone Garden grants. And we're replacing our G8000s with tablets that are working out well for detectives, and then another version of the G8000 that's going to go in the full car. So this is a good start to having some replacements that are not failing at this time. It's just that we want to have some backups.
So what is the scope in this application, the scope of the purchasing that we can have? Is it really defined defined narrowly, or is there some latitude with regard to how we use the funds?
During the application process, we have a meeting with all of the recipients, and they bring us their wish list for the equipment that they want to purchase, that they have specific needs for in their department, and then we see if it fits within the scope of the grant. There's a FEMA equipment list, and so it has to be one of the items that are allowable equipment on that list. And then the different agencies put in their wish list, and usually it's about twice the amount that we're actually awarded. And then once we get the award amount, we start paring it down from there. So all of the equipment that the agencies are getting, they've gone to their own departments and decided what equipment they needed, found it on the list, and that's what we need to do.
I was just thinking about, Representative Buck's going to speak to us about emergency management. Is that a way can you use these funds for that activity?
I don't believe so. It has to be for benefit control specifically, and their enforcement of the borders. And so it really has to be targeted to that area.
Questions?
Is this grant funding provide some relief in your normal equipment and overtime budget? Like, would you have to budget extra to purchase this equipment and to have that overtime if you weren't receiving the grant? Or does the grant just allow us to do more?
We can't supplement what we currently have, or can't supplement, sorry. So these are all controls that are over and above what we are normally scheduled to do. It's the same for all of the agencies, same as the equipment. We don't have the money to purchase these types of items.
Okay.
It is a red file item for the 29th.
Thanks. Emergency management briefing on Cascadia's production zone.
Jim, pull the microphone to you. Thank you.
We're trying to do things in a little more systematic way to make it easier for people who have the materials that are in. This is for you. This is yours. And we feel that we're throwing so much material at people, it's really important that it's a way of collecting it, kind of keeping track of what's going on, and the goal over the next 6 months to a year is really huge. So all of your briefings will look like this sheet that we get. I made it big enough so you can put notes on it and stuff, and you can just shove it in your notebook. So the first order of business this morning is a draft resolution, and this is something that you've been working on for about 8 months. And you've seen it before in your packets. We have the 5 command areas and then the subsequent individual micro islands. I've seen that sheet. So this is just a formal adoption of that practice. We've been working with the fire chiefs on this to kind of implement it. And the idea is this will be from a ground-up response, because we anticipate that communication blowout will be so extreme. We cannot wait until communications are established to have people start going to work. So the Area Command Plan is well implemented to organize people locally and have them start to respond and then feed things up to the EOC. National Guard has looked at this. They say it's the best thing they've seen, and we're way ahead of the other counties in Washington State. So I'd like you to give this capital consideration, take a look at it. Trish has provided me with one that is wordsmith in a little bit better format, and we'll get that to you. I'm sorry?
Do you have a newer one?
I was saying I knew we had a new one, this wasn't it. But
Well, it's basically the same, I wrote on this one.
Okay. Do you have the ones that you packets for me? They're on your packets? Is that the same?
That's this, yes, okay, now take that. And so basically hers is more of a formatting change, the wording is the
That's all it
same.
is. You have to comply with the policy as far as the way they want to do it.
This replaces the one in your packet. This is the one that I did where I just took some of this text and left it.
Yeah, the substance is pretty much the same. And we can get you a finalized version later today. I was out of town all last week, so I kind of leaned on Trish to help me with this, and we kind of put it together the last minute. The final wording and so forth. So anyway, if you have any questions on that, I don't know if you've had a chance to read it. The changes are not substantive, there's a little bit of wordsmithing, but basically it's a resolution to adopt the area command idea and to have it go into effect immediately if we get a large earthquake. So follow-up documents to this would be to prepare a draft declaration of emergency and some other things that you can have in your packet that would be ready to go. In Washington State, they have the general has established that a shaking of 4 minutes or longer is an automatic state declaration and an automatic presidential declaration. Those things are in place to just roll out because the response that is required to deal with an event of this size is greater than the United States has ever faced. I spent all last week out at GBLM, and there were more than 400 people in the room. And these are Department of Defense people and consultants from all over the United States and Canada. So they're taking this very, very seriously, and they're bringing a lot of resources, which is really wonderful for us. But I think it's very important that we be prepared on our level, even though we're a very small county, so that we can avail ourselves of the resources and help as quickly as possible and not be shut out on the side. So that is my purpose in requesting this, and I hope that you will approve that.
We talked about this after you made your last presentation, and it was the very last page in that presentation.
That's right.
They had recommendations, and I see some of the language is almost the same. I'm taking it that's the source document?
Exactly. Exactly. We're just kind of moving things along. And as you see this develop, you'll have a place where we give you information and updates, and then maybe it will feed into an action or maybe not. But it's kind of a systematic approach to keep you really updated with what's going on. I don't know if you're aware, but the Cascadia Rising event is a state international exercise, and it's June 7 to 10. The 2 weeks following are 2 full military exercises all over the West Coast. One's called Ardent Sentry, and the other one is, I can't remember, they have these great military things. But it'll be 3 weeks of exercising, and you'll see people everywhere. They're going to start to come into the area first part of May. So there's going to be a lot of publicity, there's going to be a lot of action, things to look at, all that sort of thing. We have some very specific events planned for our county, and I'll be happy to update you on that later. So that's the resolution, and then Jim has 2 following points. I see he's queued up there, but do you have any questions on the resolution?
No, so then do you just schedule it soon, next week?
Next week will be fine, we'll get you a better, a little bit better.
We can do that for last year.
Yeah, Trish's format looks fine, as long as you guys want to read it over one more time, make sure it needs, we'll put it on the agenda next week. And we'll put it on a regular agenda item, not consent agenda, just to, in case you want to come and make any comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to continue to, it's not just a routine resolution.
Thank you.
It's important.
Good. And so recently, Jim met with the PUD, with Patty Morris, who is there.
Patty's here. Patty's here.
You want to come on up? And we're discussing, there's some interesting things that are emerging. I'm not going to give you the whole load now. I want Jim and Patty to discuss what their meeting was about. We have some further actions that are going to have to be addressed later on because our power supply is in, or the whole entire power supply unit for our county is in a tsunami zone. And that's a problem. So I'm going to leave this to Jim and Patty to go on. And thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Sure.
Patty and I, in 20 met with PUD commissioners and the executives about 2 weeks ago to talk about Cascadia Rising, and I showed them the same presentation I showed you. And as we talked about what we could do to get ready for this, a lot of things came up as far as coordination with each other, using the equipment. They had an EOC, didn't want to have a liaison up here with our EOC. We talked about having them help us build bridges so that we could help them get to their equipment quicker, and I think that that's something we will be continuing to talk about. But the one thing that really kind of concerned us a lot was talking about coordination with BPA. And BPA really doesn't want to talk about this. And I'm not sure whether this is because of a terrorism situation or whether it's classified or whether they just don't want to address it. So the question that came up was, can you work on a BPA main line if there's no BPA people around and they can't get here? And the question was, we don't think so. They don't want us to touch our stuff. BPA's line comes up from Shelton, right? Okay, and it gets down to that big switch yard that's just east of Fatsman's. And if it's not in the tsunami zone, it's about 2 feet out. And, you know, the lines between that go into Clallam County from there are certainly something that if they're not coming or they can't get here, that if we had an agreement, our guys could go to work on it and try to facilitate getting at least our end of the system back into shape so that when the others get put together, we can get power faster. So what we would like you to do is consider among yourselves how we can approach FEMA, BPA. BPA doesn't want to play, then congressional delegation or whatever else, but get some resolution to this so that we can have something for our people. I mean, this is electricity is literally a life and death situation for us out here. And if these guys don't want to talk to us about how we can help fix it, somebody needs to put them in a situation where they will. Sure.
One of the concerns is that, and PUD is going to try to be proactive in trying to get a mutual aid agreement in place with BPA, but it'll only cover Clallam County because they can't cover beyond that. And the severity of it is that it reaches much further than our county, so there has to be something done in the Mason County area as well, or it doesn't do any good for us to get something in place here. So it's reaching beyond our county level to try to get something in place, but historically they haven't really wanted to talk about that mutual aid, even out in, you know, Forks and Neah Bay, but they are going to attempt to do that. But it is at a federal level or state level where there's some priority allowing in a disaster situation that BPA allows the local utility folks to do what they need to do to try to restore. So it is critical because without the BPA line, there is not going to be any power here.
So is this a state representative issue in terms of trying to receive some support politically?
It could be, but you could also involve the military. They have the same issue with BPA.
But we felt that you guys needed to know about it before we start rattling the bushes too much. You know, it's a courtesy thing as well as the right thing to do. So, you know, you need to be aware that there's going to be some conversations back and forth, and if they don't go well, then we're going to have to come back and talk to you about where we proceed from there.
I think that's fair, and we would help in any way, and if we need to, you know, obviously try to get a meeting if we need with Congressman Kilmer.
The other thing to remember is, you know, we're talking 2 events here, Cascadia Rising, but also the Lake Creek Lake Boundary Fault, which I briefed you on. If that goes and generates a 7 here, we're going to need all of the same kinds of resources. It'll be a better situation for us because the whole west coast won't be knocked out. But it's kind of like planning for one, planning for the other. Both would be severe for our area.
I can see there's a possibility to be back to see us, because I work with PUD and EPA on issues dealing with cogeneration, biofuels and that sort of thing. And bluntly, EPA is very focused on their system. It's airtight, if you will. It's very, very well managed, but they're not receptive to change. It takes a while to penetrate that.
Is there any track record of how they moderate though in emergency situations? I mean, maybe initially they're locked, but do they show flexibility if there's an emergency?
At least from what I understand, if there's an issue out west, they still want their crews to roll from Olympia and not allow the local PUD to do anything with it, even if it's a treated line. If they can remove it, fine, but they won't allow them to do any work. So
How long does that take, Patty, for them to
about 4 hours.
out of Olympia?
That's
If they can
when
get
the roads are-
Yeah, that's in good circumstances. So, but they are going to be proactive about trying to get something in place with them. So,
They have no staffing decided.
no, all Olympia.
Thanks.
Well,
So that's one issue.
okay. Second issue is, it's time for your monthly scare.
We should schedule it back to back with the Board of Health. You guys scare us about the natural resources. Let's go to the Board of Health. We hear about Zika virus and measles and so, let's just get it out of the way. The third week of the month, we'll just make it natural disaster.
Okay, well, I gotta let you know that we've had some really good response to people joining CERT classes. And we had a CERT program out in Joyce for 3 weekends, and got about, how many people?
29.
29 people got certified, which made Chief Baker back there have a big grin on his face. And these people have decided that they want to continue meeting with the chief and as a group to get more training and be available. One of their homework assignments was to go scout out Joyce for hazards. And within a day, Dan and Judy already came back with a bunch of pictures. And within a half mile of the Joyce Post Office, they found 10 sites with unsecured propane tanks. When you add it all up, if they were full, it would be about 3,800 gallons of propane. And some of those tanks are in the vicinity of diesel and fuel tanks, which amount to about 10,000 gallons of diesel and fuel. And if this stuff was to go up, it would be the entire fuel supply for Area Command 3. So I want to go ahead and walk you through this. This is the first one. It's just uphill from a shelter. Note that if there is a bolt there holding that thing to the concrete, it's only about a 3/8 or half-inch bolt, and there's no straps on it. Here's a 250 or 500 gallon tank. It's on a nice 12-inch pad. It may or may not be anchored securely. It doesn't have any straps over it, and it's uphill of 9,000 gallons of diesel or gasoline. We have the next one. This one is not bolted down. It's a 250 gallon tank, and it's on the uphill side of the Joyce Fire Station, and it's not strapped down, but it will be soon. Okay. This is a tank that's up at Crescent School. This is another one that's an oil tank for fuel oil. This is diesel and gasoline. But I wanted to go ahead and let you know what this looks like when it goes bad.
When a tank is exposed to sustained heat, such as from a fire, the liquid within the tank is forced to boil or vaporize, resulting in increased pressure in the tank. To prevent overstressing the tank, the relief device activates, preventing the excess pressure. As pressure decreases in the tank, the valve begins to close. With continued heating, pressure again builds, causing the relief valve to reopen. Where flames impinge on the tank below the liquid level, the liquid absorbs the heat, allowing the tank metal to remain at a safe temperature. With continued relief valve operation, the liquid level drops, exposing a greater area of the tank to the effects of heating.
If you watch, the tank will turn
With the
red hot.
flames impinging on the vapor space of the tank, the temperature of the tank metal, uncooled by liquid, rises. At some point, due to the vapor pressure from within, the tank metal begins to weaken, stretch, and eventually tear. As the tank comes apart, large quantities of both liquid and vapor are released in a powerful explosion. The heat radiated is sufficient to ignite combustibles and cause burns great distances from the explosion. Tank sections containing rapidly igniting fuel can become flying missiles, traveling great distances, causing secondary fires and other damage.
So, as we walked around after seeing this in Joyce, I started noticing about every place I drive, I see a tank that's not secured, including several other fire stations around the community. This is not just a problem at Joyce. Almost none of our tanks in this county are secured. This is a solution. This is the equipment that goes along with it. Notice it's stamped by a professional engineer, so these augers go into the ground. The cushion is threaded over the strap, and the bolt. Yeah, this is threaded over the strap so it doesn't abrade the tank. Bolt. Okay. And a ratchet bolt. There's a couple of them around somewhere.
Throw them in the box, I mean.
No, right.
What's the material on the strap?
There we go.
Stainless steel.
Stainless spent.
Okay, so you thread that through the thing, you tighten this end of it, and then tighten the bolt of it. It pulls the thing tight. This particular setup is from an outfit, it's Chehalis, and it's about $70. Okay, now, the other thing that goes along with this is mandated in flood districts and in California for earthquake, for seismic safety. So this meets seismic requirements in California. If you go a little bit further, you still have a problem. That would be if the tank rolls over, then your tubing breaks and your propane starts to leak, which causes a fire hazard to be installed. Just as bad or worse is after this is all over, you don't have any fuel to use during the disaster. So you can get, it's possible to get what they call a Northridge valve. This isn't the only kind. It's got a ball bearing up here in the top. It's on a pedestal. The earth shakes more than so much, the ball bearing falls off and it blocks, acts as a ball valve. So those are about $75. They have to be installed by a certified plumber. So asking around, it could be anywhere up to $300 if you want to have somebody come do that for you. For the anchors, they're not required by code unless they're in flood zone in Washington. So as long as they're installed according to these instructions, Mary Ellen tells me that they don't have to have a building permit, you don't have to have a building inspection. So I would ask you today, we brought this to you because we just don't need flaming explosive battering rams rolling all over Clallam County during an earthquake. It would be really helpful if you guys would start to consider whatever public process you have to see if we can get these things required for new installations and maybe start looking into ways that we can backfit some of this stuff.
So Mariel, would that be a building code change, or something for the county? What would it be?
More like a policy.
Policy?
It's not a building, and you just have to have a disconnect valve on the propane tanks, so you're not really regulating.
So anyway, we went out, got these so that we could have show and tell. Alex wants to take her back and install them right away, but I still have a couple of presentations I gotta make in the next couple of weeks, so he only gets to take one for this time, but I think probably we will have the tank at the fire station anchored within 2 weeks. And Donna will pick up another set of this that I can use for my presentations. That's what we've got. Other than that, we don't have any bad news for you today, so.
But we'll have more next time.
Yeah, we will try to figure out whether we can schedule with the health department. Just always hear you want that.
They're the third Tuesday of the month, so.
Okay.
Thanks for the time. There's my day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your work.
If you have any questions, you send me a note, give me a call, and I'll get it to you.
You have a ballpark and a number of propane tanks we have?
Well, we've got about 35,000 homes, I would say maybe half of a propane tank, so that's a rough guesstimate. It is possible that we might be able to get housing mitigation fund money to do a project like this, but we probably should start maybe city by city. There's a couple ways to do it.
I don't even know that. I don't know if you know the county, we require a permit to install a propane tank.
I don't believe so.
See, I don't even know what we're track.
And the tanks are rented from the supplier, so they're,
They're installed based on the current state standard, which is kind of pulled it down to a foundational material.
some of them are just in the cradle.
Some of them are in cradles, they're often, it's 6 inches, 8 inches of
It's very different from California.
Right.
So I've talked to a number of people about this, and apparently the county can do something to, as Jim suggested, going forward, new installations of a certain type. When we discuss this at public meetings, voluntarily done it. Those who have the money have either buried their tanks or have scrapped them. So, but there's many around it, there's no money to do that.
And one of the things, if we could get some mitigation money, you reach out to the propane folks who deliver these tanks and install them, and if there's money, I have to assume they'd be willing to take the extra step or at least instruct the homeowner that it's, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, they're just delivering them and putting them based on pretty loose, not a lot of standards. Like I said, a lot of times they just sit on the cradle.
Yeah. It's not just propane tanks. You take a look at some of these other fuel tanks and things that are around here, and they've got minimal bolting down there. I'm not sure why, but they put bolts on them. But
Well, I find that I can tell you the answer.
pretty much.
Pretty much mush, unless you're staying.
So I'm available, we're all available to talk with you about this anytime.
If you know some things that counties have done, if you could get it to the commissioners or Mary Ellen's office.
Okay.
You can look at what, if you know of any counties in Washington State that have already done this.
No,
Nobody.
we're in.
I may have heard it somewhere, but I'll research that so that I can.
But I mean, this is part of the seismic code in California for the state. An ordinance into effect that says from now on, any new installations, and then actually we're a little thin this week on time because of another project we're working on that we should and can have some mitigation.
It looks a ballpark number for you on this is about $10 million. With that kind of money involved, that's assuming 17,000
Is it that much, Bill? I'm not good at math.
Why did 17,000 tanks for $500?
Okay.
It's not the cost of the years of the installation. My
Sure.
point's that at $10 million, It would be great for us to look for some funding sources.
Well, there's that, but I think 17's a little high, certainly 5. Okay.
And we've talked with the Fire Chiefs Association about this. They're well aware of the problem. They suggest we start with you, see where we could go from there. They fully support doing something like this. And they may have some resources and information that we haven't tapped yet. We just kind of wanted to see what you thought.
One of the things that we're considering now in Joyce is whether we just send somebody to Centralia with pickup and bring back as many as we can get in there and sell them at cost and install them as a service as part of volunteer.
Could be a volunteer.
So, but
Service club or two, that would probably take that up.
yeah, you know, it'd be really helpful to get them tied down. Have a plumber come in and do the real quick shut-off valves. Probably going to be a little bit more expensive, but that's not completely undoable.
Okay, that's it. More to come, more to come.
Oh, yeah.
Is next month okay?
I'm not being, it's not facetious, you're welcome. If you have something to update us on it on a regular basis, and if it's every month, we'll just lock you in.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 17th of April, but I'll contact you.
With the exercise
Come a regular time, you want to lock in, then if you don't have something, you can just let Trish know. We don't have any, but you can just get it regularly updated. And then honestly, it just takes time to build public awareness. So every time we come here, every time the newspaper, the media gets put up, we build awareness. So I'm actually glad you're coming back, and I'm glad you're willing to come back. If you are willing to come back, of course.
Well, I think what you're looking at, Mike, is this is a building process. You know, other counties haven't done this yet, so as we feel our way through and get, you adopt the area. Okay, that gets us into the thinking thing of what's our next step after that. So
I think it's safe to say that you folks are working with state folks that, at least from this commissioner standpoint, I doubt if anybody disagree with. We want to give you every bit of support, every bit of tools, so that when you meet with them, there's no equivalent. You have all the political support from the county that you need, which then should allow you access that maybe other counties aren't going to get access to. So whatever, 100% of what you get.
And I just happen to think, Bill, you were with us on the last National Guard tour. They're going to be here April 5 through the end of the week. April 5 will be a community meeting in Forks. 6, 7, and 8 is Jefferson
I
County.
didn't know that was.
Tour. So I'll send that to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Public Works, we didn't know how long this would take, so we spent the Public Works stuff at 10.
I'll be right back.
10 minute break, so unless there's Public Works, community development. Okay, we're back. Public Works, evidence of authority to execute papers regarding the acquisition of right-of-way for the Lower Elwha for construction project. Is that mouthful?
That sounds like a mouthful, and it's a whole lot simpler than what it sounds like. Lower Elwha Road project, widening, we're in the right-of-way acquisition phase. We have a little part of the town at the north end that is tribal trust. Therefore, Joe needs authority to work with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. This is the document that they say that has to be okey-dokey by everybody, by our legislative authority for him to be able to talk to them. He's here to explain details if you want to get the weeds any further than that.
We've done this one before, Joe?
We've never dealt with the DIA before. Acquiring land from them is uncharted territory. Trust me, this is the application that the DIA wants for a little bit of right of way, and someone has to sign this stuff when we send it off to them.
This is just a document for the chair to sign on behalf of them, honestly, to avoid, I mean, we could actually just do that now.
authorize me to sign it, we get it authorized, we can get the paperwork started.
Okay.
I really think there's a reason why you did this. This is just a procedural issue. So if there's a motion, I'd be willing to just authorize the chair to sign it today.
I move to authorize the chair to sign the evidence of authority of officers to execute papers.
Second?
Just moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. We'll have to have Trish.
I'm guessing we need a resolution. I think so, because when you read this, you're authorizing him to execute all instruments, which is your duty to sign deeds of trust and any transfer of property, and I would think that would need a resolution, but we could certainly add it to tomorrow's executive session.
We'll try to add it tomorrow. Just seems silly that we tomorrow's resolution to be able to forward. So.
I think it needs a resolution.
Okay, that's fine. So, motion and second rescinded, yeah, and we'll try to add it to tomorrow's agenda if we get a quick resolution done. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Good luck with those guys, Joe.
It's very interesting to say the least. I'll have to give you a complete synopsis of the process when that's all over.
You know, if I can help, please let me know.
Thanks, Joe.
Yep.
Pre-application questionnaire.
This is for a submission for a grant application to the RCA process, which is funding our current project out at Crescent, which is segment C, and is the McPhee Tunnel. This is the western 1.2 miles of the Spruce Railroad Trail and includes the David Rankin Tunnel. So we've come up with a project estimate of $1.2 million for that. That tunnel, although it's shorter, was damaged more by the explosive effort that the park did to close the entrance to it. So this is a 50% grant, so we would be asking for $599,000, which would be matched by both the county and the Peninsula Trails Coalition is putting out a small match of both cash and donated labor.
And this will be reflected as we go into our 2017 following tip. These are on there. This stuff dirt won't be moved at this point for Mr. Chapman. He knows that, you see a lot of this stuff, and it takes years before we actually get to the point where we're moving dirt. So we're just, at this point, just getting your approval to get this money process started. It starts filling in takes away the stuff that we committed out of the road department budget and supplements it then with outside funding, which is this whole section here we've talked about in the past. It has all been funded up sufficiently. Past boards have approved the county road department funding it up in full. Then Rich goes out and starts collecting the money to backfill. Essentially, we then can take the county road funds and put them back in the bank again for the next thing. So this is a really, if you don't have, can you supply them with this one? This is probably the best up-to-date one on how the segments work right now. So if I think we'll need to get that on our website. It'll be good too.
And when would you expect to hear back on the grant once it's submitted?
Well, we'll hear this year on how it ranks, and then if it finishes in the money as far as ranking, then it goes to the legislature, and they usually fund the RCO at a certain level. So depending on what that level is, it funds X number of projects. The other thing to be aware of, although I haven't included it in the funding part of this yet, is that the park has been, including the project we're working on now, they supplied $130,000 for that project, and they intend to continue that amount of funding for future projects also. So I can't really commit them to it yet because we haven't even got the grant yet, but I think once we have the grant, that we may be able to supplement it with at least $100,000 of OMP money.
That'd be great.
And then the tip would have 100% of this cost right now?
That's,
You build that up based on zero grant assumption?
Yeah,
Correct. Yeah. And while we got you here, can you share with the commissioners where the water line road is on this last exhibit? Because that's an issue that we're having a conversation about right now.
yeah, it would be just north of this and ties us back into 112.
Right.
And we are beginning those talks with DNR, which you've already started to transfer the water line road over to county jurisdiction.
So just a heads up for the commissioners, Sue Tredovik's going to retire, I think June of this year. And she had this on her list of things to get taken care of before she walks out the door. And so she's been gently reminding me, but I just wanted you to know we're having a conversation. And when that gets done, it's likely the commissioners will get approached on it. And I'm just sharing with you, we'd like to be able to do this, or at least get the paper set up before she retires. Otherwise, we got to start it all over.
Yes.
As a replacement.
Right, and I know that you have physically been on that site. Rich and I went out, he's been on it a lot more than I have, but I've been there from an engineering standpoint. I think that I don't see any red flags. I think that this is a really good process that has kind of been thought about between the DNR and the county, and I think we were having a meeting. Last thing I knew, I kind of said, let's go ahead and get the meeting, but I'm not really the one setting it up. So that was late last week that I kind of said, let's do it. I CC'd it to Sue as well, so we'll stay on it. Okay. We got
That's perfect, thank you.
we got this one right here too, Rich.
So Jimmy, you signed a grant application?
I did.
This is a Federal Lands Highway Division.
Okay. So this is actual transfer of funding over to Western Federal Lands for the construction of the current segment, which if you look on the map again is segment C. It includes the McPhee tunnel. So this would transfer over $720,000 in construction and $128,000 in PE,
Great.
finish the design. The design is right now wrapping up, and we expect to go to construction in late summer, fall.
So the work that Western Federal Lands does is in the design and then the compliance, am I correct?
Well, they also, they put it out to bid and they, they'll oversee the construction. So they pretty much do everything that we would normally do if it was our project, and they do it for us.
So that's for next week, so we have final for next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Community development. Proposed letter to the Army Corps of Engineers regarding the Lower Dungeness River Ecosystem Restoration Project. Good morning, Linda.
So I have two items for this project. The first one is a letter that the Corps needs to include in their package for the feasibility study. And then they submit it to their division office and it's reviewed and signed off and so forth. And then once they go through that process, that allows them to access funds for design and construction to participate in that process. So what they need in the package is a letter from the county saying we agree with the feasibility level assessment and we have the money to back up our side of it, which we will, because there's the second part is the second agenda item is a contract with Department of Ecology that grants the county construction funds for that phase of the
So there's $2.8 million that's not being paid by the federal government.
According to their estimates, I want to point out that at this point, we're all in sort of the estimate phase. We've all done our best to come up with an accurate number. So this is the number that the Corps came up with. At the moment, the county's number is a little higher. But within 6 months, we'll probably be much more dialed in. So, having said that, the Corps says, the Corps expects at this point that the county share is $2,825,000, and we will be able to fulfill that match with this grant from the state. So we have the match and then some for
That's where I was going with it is, of the 2.8, how much is out of our general fund? And what you said,
Looks like both of them would be here and file for next week.
Both, yeah, 10 and 11 would be both, yeah.
Can you wait a week, is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
Just a process question. When I'm looking at the deliverables here, the site map illustrating the new configuration of Town Road due June 30th next year, what are we looking at in terms of how coming to a decision? I can't remember about what the configuration of Town Road is going to be and whether it goes through or not.
Well, the engineers haven't even done the design yet, so there's a whole design process before you know what that's going to be.
So would that process result in several alternatives, and then would there be a public meeting or something along those lines?
At the moment, the way the scope is written, 3 alternatives. One would be the road on the levee, one would be the road through the floodplain, and the configuration something similar to where it exists now, and one would be to discontinue it through the floodplain. And we're planning to do open houses and public meeting.
Great.
Yeah.
Lots of public outreach.
That's probably what Mark was.
I'm trying to get a sense for when I can expect that so that I'm prepared for it.
You should, you've got to be front and center in the loop on that. Yes, working with your constituents.
Ballparking, I would say this summer.
Great.
There'll probably be lots of outreach.
Great. Well, when you get to that point, let me know what kind of help or support we need.
And what's the end goal to actually make a decision this summer, or just start the public outreach this summer?
Hopefully, we would be able to have a decision by the late summer, early fall. It's the first, after getting ourselves organized, that's their engineer's first job, is to come up with those 3 options and bring them to the community.
And what's the estimated date to start?
The construction, we would like to start the first phase in, given fish windows, we would like to start in late 2017. Doing the first puzzle.
So I'll just reiterate this project's in Mark's district. Clearly, he's got to be doing, you're going to need his support to move a project like this forward. So.
Counting on it, actually.
Exactly. But this is a pretty high profile project, and so if the district commissioner has any concerns, he'll work with you. You guys will work with you.
So the 3 options, go ahead. I was just wondering, the 3 options that are presented, what's the protocol on that, Mike, with regard to the selection? Is that something that is handled out of your departments? Is it something that hits the commissioner's desk?
Kind of depends on that, and there may be a role for boss to play too, when you start talking about.
My understanding was that it was board decision. Which
Ultimately,
option to
it's our
choose.
decision, but the public process will be coordinated with you and
Oh,
Rose, I suspect.
absolutely.
And-
Oh, yes.
And Mark. Yeah, but it will come back to us. I'm just saying, I don't see a scenario in which Mark comes back and says, I still have concerns and problems that Bill and I just kind of ran through over his objections. So I'm just saying, bring him, make sure he's on, it's his district. We wouldn't do it to Bill on the west end either, so.
So that would be the first time that Sharon Wilson would meet with
Boy,
you.
you're right.
Is there a date?
I think sometime in May, if I remember the
So that
schedule.
might be a time for Mark
Yeah.
to get involved in, just to know. what's-
Yeah, no, I definitely, that's why I was asking initially, so I can make sure I'm paying attention when the time is right.
I'm sure you are. The board has routinely been getting comments. Sometimes they're more active. Right now it's kind of quiet, but there's a lot of members of the public that have a lot of questions and concerns, and generally this is in fact my front yard, my access to my property and that sort of thing, so.
There is a
And there's not,
website.
right, but not all the questions have been answered, and so.
I expect there'll be more questions every time.
Well, that's helpful. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's, yeah. So a decision like this has to take its time and work through the public process. It's got to be under the leadership and support of the district commissioner. You guys know all that. I'm not telling you that because I don't think you know that. I'm kind of just telling it in general terms so the
He's
public.
telling me.
Talking to the video so
Telling
people
me
can
too.
just people can understand there's got to be this process and
It's all better.
yeah,
You know,
right, okay. Thank you. So next week, a couple of items to keep moving forward. That's the goal, thank you. Thank you so much. Board of Commissioners, so requests for proposals for online live video streaming and on-demand accessibility.
So this is working with the IT department and using basically the request for proposals qualifications that's in our online forms, which is everything in bold on here, and then you leave the gap. The 10 requirements that we have here in this proposed request was basically what we wanted you to either weigh in on or ask questions of IT about why we needed those things, and then we have it on the agenda to move forward for the RFP process that the commissioners have requested. So that basically, leave it to IT, but it was presented to me that these are the 10 must-haves in order to both fit our system and not burden it, together with the goals that the BOCC indicated back in February sometime, whenever we were talking about it, you wanted to see. So that's the presentation. If you have any questions of IT, anything in particular you want to say or add?
I'm assuming that you helped put this together, Deb, so you're really comfortable with their exists potential products that meet these needs.
Well, I really appreciate the research and time that all of you have taken to put this together. I mean, I can't speak to the technical requirements, but I appreciate how well thought out it is, and I think that that's definitely going to help us end up with the right product and the best product. So thanks for taking the time to put the work.
Alan did 90% of the work, so.
There you go.
I'm really excited to see how this works out. I think it's going to be really excellent for our citizens.
As I understand, you and were both of you at the PABA last Tuesday. I didn't see it. Usually the newspaper does a little wrap-up article, but I didn't see one. I may have missed it. How did they go? Were they favorable? Were they unfavorable?
They appeared to be favorable. We had, Dale was also there and presented the complimentary proposal. It wasn't necessarily, in my opinion, a competing proposal.
because we are trying to present a product, whereas he's trying to do a service. Our product will fit into that service. There is still some uncertainty on his part as to whether or not he could move forward if we went this way. And I said that was between him and you folks, and not with us. We're looking at a product to provide the citizens how they use that product, whether it's through wave broadband, whether it's, other types of avenues. We're looking at the product, whereas he's looking at a service. And that was the underlying distinction that we wanted to try and get across. And I believe it went over well.
And just my 2 cents to that, what you're really looking at here in this request for proposal is the content delivery provider and the services that we want included with the content delivery provider. As far as what's fed into this encoding environment, that is still an option that could be, talked about, such as the actual method in which we want to bring the video into the encoder. There's, separate things. We could use a camcorder and simply feed it into the system. It streams it up. It's more about putting a product out there that the majority of the Clallam County citizens can access and at their leisure and not based on any kind of broadcast channel requirement or something like that. So,
How are you going to publicize this RFP?
We do it the way we do all of them. We'll put it in the paper, we'll also put it on our website, and we will actually send a copy to anybody that has requested one be given to them. That's the way we do all our RFPs.
I don't have a sense for what kinds of companies might reply to something like this, but I would imagine that most of them might not be, reading the Peninsula Daily News or whatnot. So if there's any other forums that would be appropriate to more broadly advertise something like this, any technical forums or other resources, I would just encourage.
I think we've already heard from 2 of them, isn't it? That you said would clearly be able to meet all 10 requirements.
Exactly.
Contacted us on their own.
Normally this particular piece is not really put out as an RFP. Talking to other municipalities that run on a similar setup, the upfront cost is really just the appliance and the initial first year's service. The recurring, with one provider was $6,000 per year, which really didn't raise to the level of needing to go with a public RFP. So I kind of put feelers out to see if anybody had done an RFP for this particular thing, and the number was too low as far as the monthly service, because it was more like these were one-time purchases.
Right.
So we're going to buy this appliance, and then the service is this recurring, and that's just really for bandwidth and storage capacity is what you're paying for.
But the board indicated they wanted to do an RFP to therefore make it open to everybody. So really the effort is, as you suggested, is that we have to send to companies that we think can meet all these, and pretty much we've already done that. And just to find out what everybody has. And then locally, in case there's some local firm who wants to put something together that can do this, they know what the specifications are.
So the product is going to be easily accessible to the general public?
Yeah, we basically create a URL, this www.clallam.net/videos.
It'll be a link on our website. They just go right to it. It will go right to the content provider's cloud, not ours. It won't take up our space.
The content provider that we're looking for would actually host the library of all of the meeting videos. We're looking for unlimited storage capacity, unlimited meeting body support. So
unlimited users actually watching it at any point in time.
Be accessed 24/7 from any
Exactly.
mobile device, laptop, smartphone, tablet.
And now TVs now have internet browsers built right into them.
Yes, if you have Google Chromecast or any of the other little search.
It's just amazing this kind of technology is available, services available are so cheap. I had no thought in the world 5 months ago when we started going down this path that we could get this type of service for our customers, our citizens for so little money. It just shocked me. how much it's changed.
You know, we'll really appreciate any the technical advice that you can, as you compare the bids. But I'll just share with you, one thing I'm looking at is, does it exclude, whatever product we select, does it exclude any part of our population and why? I mean, if it's something that everybody can access.
And that's one of the technical things here that we're,
Yeah, libraries, you can go into a public library and you can go to the library, you go to virtually any coffee shop and.
If you have internet, anybody can get to it, anywhere in the world.
And library. Or you can download the video onto a USB drive and somebody can plug it in there and run it on the desktop if they don't have a static internet connection or they have dial-up or something.
But that transparency is, to me, the most important step that we're taking here. And, you know, transparency also says it's accessible. You know, so I'm glad, very glad we're going that way with something so easy to use.
And I'm interested in just, not that you guys aren't important, but those other pieces of the county. Where I think we could I think we could put a lot of this information out there to the general public, such as that briefing that was given this morning on the earthquake. That is just a key thing to have out there, that people should really be paying attention to things like that. As far as what our EOC is doing, things like that. Meetings the sheriff is in, that should be recorded. That should then turn around and be broadcast up through there and be available for people to watch.
Well, that's a really good point, and I see it sort of the next step once we get a system chosen and installed, and, you know, we started to learn how to use it, is thinking about how to exploit it, you know, how to take full advantage of the system, and you're exactly right. I think that there's an appetite out there for more information, and the more creative and aggressive we can be about sharing that and setting it up in a way that encourages people to do it better.
we've already had some brief discussions with Stephanie on where we go with the history that she has on the Clallam Public Eye. That would be a decision for you guys as to how we handle that, but that's something that we've already chatted a little bit about. It would be more the raw video, not whatever she's put up there. It would be the raw video, so it would be something that would not be, which you said you still have, correct? Yes, for the record.
So I appreciate the way that you're drawing to everyone's attention the difference between product and service. And, you know, I've had a conversation with Dale, and he's looking at developing a business, and I love the idea of more business in the county, but he can't do anything until he gets his raw material. And so that, I think, is the first step we take on this, is what is that raw material? Is it really truly accessible? And then he has to decide how do you shape a business around using that raw material.
Yeah. But the raw material will still stay with Clallam County as far as ownership is concerned, but that doesn't mean he can't use it on public television.
Right. And then, as far as what did come out of the meeting, one thing I did feel was that they felt like there was a lack of support for public access television. I think we spent more time in that meeting saying, I don't believe that is the injection of the commissioners. What it was is that the proposal was kind of a mixture. It was mixing or commingling support of public television and a broadcast service from them, which we did. Our problem with it, from Debbie and I's standpoint, was that we didn't feel like it met the total need of what the commissioners would really want. We didn't want to, we were going to narrow our public exposure to that content going through them until they had some online presence that could be found. And that's what we felt like. We think this is a better product in the fact that we can get it on the internet. These people can all access it, stream it, broadcast it on Channel 21, but at the same time, we'll show up on search engines, we'll show up on several things.
Okay, let's amend the item for next week. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Project interview committee continues update.
Okay, well, as you may remember, back on February 12th, the decision was made to go out and simultaneously ask for applicants, RFP, for anybody that was interested in becoming our new primary hearing examiner, which we did, and I was told this morning we have 5 applicants who have applied. And at the same time, we were going to try and get members for an ad hoc committee, one member from the environmental community, one member from the legal community, and one member from the building community. And so we advertised, and we put the information on our website, and we sent emails to people who had previously expressed an interest, and we only got one member. It was from the environmental community. Darlene Schanfeld was the only one who applied to be on the ad hoc committee. And so what we thought we would do is ask you to talk about what we want to do now. I mean, we can put out another ad, see if we get anybody, or we can just go see if any of you or anybody else notice in the paper that we're looking for somebody. Perhaps somebody out there just didn't apply because they thought there'd be lots of people. Now they would be. Or we can go target folks, whatever you'd like to do. So that was the reason for this discussion. You give us direction, what you would like to see. Obviously, it wouldn't be horrible to just have the one person on there and fill it up with county HR and perhaps one of you, perhaps me. We've already been told that nobody from the prosecutor's office, DCD, or any of the judges would want to be on said committee because of potential conflicts. So really, it's up to you. We hope we could have that kind of discussion, see what you thought you wanted to happen.
Have we done this before for this position?
No.
Volunteer?
Not in my time.
I think, but it's a really good idea. But if we can't find anybody, we can't force people to serve, so.
We could certainly put the interviews. Richard, when are we planning on interviewing those folks?
We haven't set a date on it yet because we want a little flexibility here on the determination. So.
Mary Ellen, you're the permanent advisory committee. You know, can you think of anyone on that committee that might be willing to serve and represent the building industry? That's usually that whole committee is made up of industry folks, but
Yeah, I could call a few of them.
could you maybe reach out to any of them and see if, I really think if you're gonna have the environmental, the other, you know, both sides should be the legal, may just be folks just aren't interested because they may be, you know.
Mark Nichols had mentioned to me, are there any retired judges that might be interested that you know?
You know, all the retired judges that I'm aware of are working occasionally, except one, yeah, somebody like Gary, that's true.
Yeah, but the squeeze on you.
We could do that. I was thinking that Bill Knieves is another one that has kind of backed away. He's not been active anymore, and he might be a good one.
And then, in addition to the permit committee, the planning commission, is that another resource to turn to? Asking members of the planning commission, would you be interested in serving on this other committee?
No, if we couldn't find a legal representative, then I guess if we had a representative of the planning commission, that would at least continue to balance it out because they're code development advisory, which is what this person oversees. So that would be maybe a good compliment to reach out to them and see if we can find someone. And if we can't find someone from legal, I think you find somebody from that group.
Yeah, it'd probably be real helpful, actually.
And I'm going to be speaking tomorrow morning at breakfast with the Grand Point Peninsula Builders Association. So, you know, I mean, I could make a pitch tomorrow morning, and then, you know, if I have someone from the building industry come forward, I can let you know, and if not, then...
And have them all get either Trish or Lauren. I
mean, I definitely think it makes sense to try at least one more time to do some more specific recruitment, and if that still doesn't work, then, okay, we'll do something different, but.
So does it mess you up on the timeline for recruiting? If we're gonna take a second crack at this? When's the contract expire? Do we have it in place right now?
We went through May, I think, through May, so we need to start June 1, so we still have time.
Okay.
And it can always be extended.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it to try to wait another, make some calls, wait another week, talk to the builders tomorrow morning, talk to the planning commission, and maybe that's as good a way to go as the legal community at least, possibly. And I understand why the legal community might be a little reluctant.
Yeah, because all 5 of the applicants are members of the same bar association.
Is anybody going to reach out to the 2 judges that we talked about first?
If you think we prefer Joe Pent, I mean, Gary Buey and Bill Knieves. I mean, I can certainly
call both of them, if we could, but it's to be a 4-member committee, it's not the end of the world by any stretch.
Right.
So is that something that you'd like Jim to handle, or are you thinking about handling it?
No, it'd be better if Jim did that. And then
I'll do that if you do the permit committee. And do you want to add planning commission? I'm hearing some support for that as a.
We're not any problem with that.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
So you want to take care of planning commission too? And then we'll have Rich and I, and if one of you wants to be on that committee when we get to the date, because it's really your appointee.
Right. We're looking for some advice from you.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try to do this.
Good.
All right.
Great. And then the Pine Regional Chamber of Commerce Board of Bylaws somewhat are now being enforced, and so
Yeah.
we do appoint a representative.
So you all see, my executive summary is that at the last meeting last week, it was indicated the new executive director, Mark Absher, and he's just a breath of fresh air, and really so happy that he's coming in and he's, real room sweeps clean, as he's looking through everything. He realized that there really is no exception that was pretty much allowed before to the bylaw that says nobody can represent more than 3 years in a row on the executive board. And I've been on there 14 years. And as your appointee for the last 10, and the previous 4, I was on as an elected member, 3 of them as my at-large, and then in the 4th year I was selected to be the treasurer, so I got an extra year. When I was at the school district, I was just school district's representative to the chamber, and I got elected at-large. So I've been there 14 years, and they said, that's not what it was designed to do. It's designed to have new, fresh people, members, and this kind of stuff, and I agree completely. I've actually been trying to get myself out of it for about the last 3, because we've been working on bylaws, and I suggested eliminating the permanent ex officio positions, being the city, the port, and now the county, and the 4th one being the national park. Now we have 4 permanent positions that are ex officio, non-voting. But I said, quite frankly, over the last 14 years, I don't really see that it's been all that critical that we had those positions. And so anyway, long story short, nobody wanted to get rid of the ex officios, the rest of the board didn't, and they did want to have a person. In the course of the conversation, I heard that Mary Ellen might be interested. She'd been approached by either Sharon or the current president, I don't remember which, and so I caught her in the hall as I was coming back and wanted to make sure that in fact was the case, and she indicated that she did at that time have some interest, and I said, well, it's got to be appointed by the legislative body. So I asked her if she would come, and you could ask her. I think there's the other 2 of you are on the boards, 1 in Swim and 1 in Forks and Clallam CQ. In the past, the District 2 Commissioner, at least for the past 10 years, hasn't wanted to be on that board anymore. I think you were on it for a while before I got here.
Yeah.
But
I'm fully supportive of Mary Ellen taking that, if you're interested in serving, and since you basically, it's a 3-year term, and so that would coincide nicely with your work here, and I think it makes a lot of sense, and it'd be refreshing change to have someone who's not in the legislative body, but more from the development side of things, so, yeah, my 100% support if you want to serve, if you'd be willing to serve.
Yes, I would, I like that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for
It's
serving.
great.
You're here.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So,
Perfect. So I'll let them know that,
we'll probably pass the resolution, probably have to pass
we probably should pass a resolution.
Make it official. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything
It's a
else?
very positive group of people, so I'm
Right.
really excited to do that.
Right, good.
Good point.
After your problem issue is that easy to solve. Okay, general discussion items for future agenda. As we talked about earlier, we have the finance committee coming up this week, and then hopefully that leads to this scheduled public hearing next week on SARC request. I will confirm the Charter Review Commission, looks like that may be in the morning. We're waiting to hear back from the prosecutor on the proper way forward regarding strike P, since it's active litigation. He's just asked us now, we actually was kind of asked us just to take it off the agenda because it's litigation. He's in charge of that aspect of it, so we can actually remove strike P for now, the request of the prosecutor.
And we did send him your resolution removing it, or authorizing it.
Resolution from last year regarding the strike P, but there's active litigation. So he was just concerned that it was sitting on our agenda, that he's in charge of that aspect, so I have no problem with that. Everything else looks...
Yeah, I've got a couple. First, with regard to Jim's performance review, I attempted initially to conform, the facilitator sent us a letter of engagement, because it's pretty simple and straightforward. And I attempted to conform that to our standard contract, but he didn't really like that very much, just because it's not necessarily appropriate for the level of service he's providing. My understanding is that the prosecuting attorney just needs to review and okay that letter of engagement, but he told me that in order to do that, he needs direction from you as the board chair that relates to business that the county's going to take up, or it requires two out of the three of us to say that.
Majority of the board can be right. You can just contact Mark from the board and ask him to take a look at that contract.
And I was trying to keep Jim out of the loop on this one, and so I just sent the letter of engagement to Mark. I think if in fact you did that, then that's, my understanding is that he just needs you to do it since you're the board chair. So, great. Okay.
And you can share that all three of us are in support of this, if that makes any difference to Mark.
Thank you very much. And also, with regard to climate change, I have been working on and off for the last couple weeks with a fellow named Bob Lynette, and he approached me with an idea for how the county could begin to approach the subject of climate change. And the result of that is, or at least where that stands right now, is a draft resolution. And if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to bring that to the work session next week if there's time on the agenda, so we can take a look at it and talk about whether that is a way that makes sense for us to move forward or not.
You know, I had a chance to meet with Bob, and you know, I really appreciate what they're trying to do, and I do think they're going to be working through the RCND group that you sit on now.
Yes, yes.
But when I looked at that proposal, I didn't see a lot of focus, and I know that we've already done this other study. So my question is, could he pick up the other study and then say, okay, well, you know, the committee that he's got proposing, plus 7 people or something like that, in the interest of addressing future climate change, knowing we've got this document that's already been organized, we went through it, and here's the 3 or the 5 things that, you know, the commissioners might want to consider working on first.
Right. And, you know, additional conversations with him, we've evolved that potential resolution to the point where it doesn't have that advisory committee anymore. But it's something, it's time for us to be talking about it, here at this table.
Okay.
So, I'd be happy, if it's okay with you guys, I'd be happy to just bring that forward next week. And, if that seems like a direction we're following, then I'll keep following up on it. And if not, then, I'll work a different direction.
No, I think you're making progress. Good job.
Thank you.
We need to schedule a discussion coming up on the Public Defender Advisory Committee. We also talked about in regards to the Public Defender contract.
That contract,
That's through the end of the year,
right? Okay.
My original goal was to bring this advisory committee back together and work in June with the idea that by the end of July, we have a decision on who to present to the commissioners so that we can put it in the budget documents, which we get real heavy in August, and then build a preliminary budget in September. And then that would give whoever 4 months to get their affairs in order, one way or the other.
I think that's perfect. I just kind of wanted to throw it on there, so I was getting some questions. We dropped it or forgot about it, so I thought if we put it on our agenda, we'll set a date as we get closer to May or something for at least folks, so we haven't totally forgotten about it. And then we moved to the end of March. If you remember, in January, we had the full county leadership team, and we discussed possibly coming back in April. I've been trying to think of what an agenda might look like in April to pull the team back together. But if you guys are wanting to do that on a quarterly basis, we probably need to start a conversation as to what we would talk about. If we don't think we have anything to talk about, then obviously we just need to have a meeting. I think there was more than some, but a lot of positive feedback. And I had told people I didn't want it to just be a one-time issue. So what do you guys, are there issues that you guys think we should begin to think about for an agenda, or? Wait till maybe
just looking at our fire storm there, Jim, do you know how widely spread around the county organization all of the work that's going on with regard to this emergency preparedness planning is being disseminated? Would that be potentially a worthwhile focus for the meeting to make sure that every department is keyed in to?
Sure. I mean, we've had their presentations maybe 3 times in the last 2 years on various aspects, but there hasn't been an update since the commissioners have gotten involved and they've gotten this more detailed. And perhaps, and of course this is all about this big exercise that's going to happen come June, I think it is June 7th. So it might be timely to invite somebody from the Jim Buck or Penny to come and speak to the commissioners. But they have, like I say, there's been presentations to the full elected official department head meeting before, but not about this exercise, and that might be worthwhile.
You're meeting with them this week, right?
Yes, Thursday.
So why don't you put it on your agenda, asking them?
Okay, if they've got any ideas.
I think we'd be willing to meet in April. We were struggling. Maybe this would be an issue. Obviously, the end of the year budget numbers are all in now, so.
Right.
But do they have any?
Okay, well, that's good.
Do they have issues that they think they want to discuss with us?
Okay.
Or just get their feeling.
At
the very least, if we don't do it in April, we definitely want to do it mid-year around the budget.
Because the last meeting, there was a tool that actually Debbie's prepared. Jim gets to take all the credit for it, but that's the way things work. I'm kidding with you. The tool is actually pretty useful in being able to query budget data. And so, and I saw a really positive response from the staff. It was like, wow, some people manage their own. little notebook. But the thing that I see.
Debbie Cook Debbie, not Debbie Early Debbie. I was thinking, God, what did Debbie Early do? Debbie Cook Debbie, yes, that's right, she did it.
And so the thing that I was wondering about is being able to prep the crew, being able to sit with staff and say, did you know you could do this? Here's an example, here's your little handout on it, to get them to the point that when it's time for the budget discussions, they've had a chance to do a little rehearsal. I mean, I haven't even been able to practice on it, but I sure saw the enthusiasm, and it's very easy. And so being able to get their feedback, would you like a tutorial, or you know, what is it that would get them to a point where they can make some useful comments to us during the budget review process. But it really neat tool, I think. And that, to me, was one of the things that came out, the message that I heard was that there's a genuine desire to engage in the financial issues.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And they all have a vested interest in the financial success of this organization.
Right.
So touch base with them, we're going to meet in April, if they feel like there'd be value, and see if we can't get a few issues we might want to talk about. If not, at the very least, I think when you do your mid-year budget rollout, I'd like to do that at that meeting. Because, you know, traditionally it's been at the board level,
Right,
the board meeting.
Right.
I think it'd be respectful to go back and have you do that there.
Okay.
If we can do that as part of our continued board meeting.
Sure.
So throw that out there, that at the very least, that's the next, but unless somebody else can think of. From our end, I don't see anything, but if they want to meet, we'll meet. And
sure.
It could be an open discussion too, open roundtable discussion.
Yeah, that's always useful.
So we'll wait to hear back from you on that.
I'll let you know next week.
Okay.
And just kind of anecdotal for you, I was at a meeting in Joyce where actually Jim's wife was making a presentation to do with the propane and everything, but a couple of days before I was in a different meeting with the Crescent Water System. And no kidding, this person asked the question after the earthquake, I want to know how many days until my water system is reestablished. And I go, this person is way out of the loop, you know, way out of the loop.
How many days can you walk to the creek and fill out a 5-gallon
You know,
and walk back?
and just the idea of being able to share, there's some bigger fish that we'll be frying. She doesn't understand that. You know, it was an innocent question, but our ability to transfer this message and get a broader understanding, I think is really important.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anybody have anything else? This is, I should probably bored the 3 people left in the audience, so. Okay. Well, in this week's meeting, you guys are going to transit, or when are you going to transit? He's going to so reconvene tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Just want to do things, just to be careful, just so folks know.
Do we have an agenda for it?
Yes, we do. I have the agenda, I can forward it to you, the treasurer put on the agenda last week.
That would be helpful to include that,
So if we can,
notice.
yeah, if we can do the notice.
We also have the 1:30 on the 24th, an elected official department head meeting that we're going to be, at this point, I haven't heard from any of the commissioners that they're coming, but it's that time. 1:30 on Thursday.
In the pool?
I'm going to have a brief description or a demonstration during that one of the C-Clip fix app that I was talking about a couple weeks ago, about where people can put that app on their smartphone and click a problem like a pothole or a tree across the road, and it'll be submitted to the county. So we're going to show that to elected officials and see how many think that's worthwhile for their department.
Anything else this week? This week, we have the special meeting of the charter review on the 8th.
That is going to be part of your work session.
But it's set for the afternoon.
No, they're going to do the 9 a.m. I don't know where the 10:30 came from.
We had it set 1:30. To do a special afternoon, because it's going to take a couple hours, just to try to review, you figured.
Okay, I will talk to Norma because she was planning on mine, is what the email said, because I had them in 1:30 as well, so.
The email that I saw said 1:30.
And that was your choice to have it later at
I
1:30?
mean, do you have any idea what, work session, of course, there was not much to do in the morning, we could do in the morning, we won't know until Wednesday, so.
Probably not. My understanding is they just wanted to talk about the ombudsman keys. I understood were the Office of Citizen Complaints. I think that's the only other maybe loose end that from their recommendations.
We'll work when you know what's from, and if we get it in the morning. You told her 9?
But that's what she thought they were doing it. So.
But I don't want to mess up her schedule, so we'll keep it at 9, and if we have to move it in the afternoon, we will.
Okay. So we need to change. These are purely extensions of current contracts that have been in existence for a long time. We want to extend them to the end of the year, December 31st, so that they can be put into our regular RFP cycle. We don't have to do separate RFPs now and then a whole different set in the fall. Both of them are funded out of the tax funds. They still have money. They've been underspent over the years. The one from First Step Family Support is a parenting support where one or more of the individuals, the parents of children, have a developmental disability, and it's a support program to help them be better parents and to allow the children can stay in the home, or at least with these individuals can stay involved in their children's lives rather than CPS involvement or rather than someone else. The mental health one, the mental behavioral health is a stopgap that we can use for individuals that cannot qualify in other ways that may have mental health issues along the way. We have a lot of grief, mourning, other issues that come up, and there is a dedicated person in mental health that is qualified as a developmental disabilities counselor. So this is something that we have then funded out of that. We use Medicaid funds, whatever is available first. And this is for those instances where individuals need the counseling and do not get it otherwise.
Any particular reason why the dedicated tax funds have been underspent?
It goes up and down. We've had some years where we've used every penny of it. Right now, they have been underspent this year just because it's down. We did get a couple new parents in the parenting program. Again, that kind of goes up and down. We had a couple parents, unfortunately, that passed away, and that changed things. And mental health obviously goes up and down every month. Somebody goes into counseling, somebody leaves counseling. So that's what's been happening.
There was an issue that kind of kicked around at the last budget review, Mark, and it's especially the case within Iva's department because she has so many programs that quite a fair amount of them over time have accumulated funds. And so kind of one issue is if we were to consolidate those into a single location, would we have more flexibility if one of the funds needed more than they
Get on our work session agenda where it says 1:30.
The upcoming events.
Yeah.
Anything else? Any correspondence?
All received an email from Bob Martin addressing some concerns that Judy Larson had about culture sewer. There's a copy attachment, there are attachments that go along with that email. And then the company, and this is on your agenda for tomorrow, to enter into an agreement with Kenbrio for the review of Jim's performance review. And it says he's floating April 20th and 21st as the day he can be here for personal interviews and an executive session. And you check your own calendar and check with your fellow commissioners to see if those dates are. That was from Commissioner Rosales. So April 20 and 21, and would he interview each of you? Is that what the intent is?
Yes, well, I think if I remember correctly, he does an interview with Jim and then does an executive session with three of us. I don't recall.
Okay.
I don't have the contract in front of me right now. I don't recall if he would interview each of us individually. I don't think so.
So 2021st, how was that?
20th is a Wednesday, I'll be in Forks.
Okay, so you need a Thursday.
And then we have Clallam Field 1 that day.
I think we moved it because of the baseball. Oh, it's just a placeholder. Okay, I'll double check that.
Anytime Thursday.
I thought we moved it to the 20th. I will double check. I think we moved that to the 20th because of the baseball game. I'll double check. But any other conflicts on the 21st?
Okay. We'll work to get those time frames nailed down as quickly as possible.
That's it for me.
Thank you. Amendment 1 to First Step Family Support Center extending the contract. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
The first item of business is calendar correspondence.
So, we had a conflict today with the Tax Advisory Committee and Spring Transit. So Commissioner Ozias has chosen to forego Spring Transit, and they would love to have you, Commissioner Chapman, if you're interested.
Are you gonna, would you rather do transit?
Yeah, no, I'd rather do the, so, are you gonna be able to go to the transit?
Yeah, I'll plan for that.
So,
Yeah, just checking Mary.
You have a quorum. She asked me to extend an invitation to you to go to the conference. So, are you interested or not? So again, Logic Tax Advisory Committee at 2:30, and I'll be in the boardroom. You have the William Shore Memorial Pool District meeting tomorrow at 3. And that's all I've got for this week. Next week, Commissioner Peach will be in Olympia at the Board of Natural Resources meeting. And I have some documents for you for that.
Super. The following week, the 5th, or next week, the 29th?
The 5th. And on Friday, we have the April 1st, so 2 weeks out, is the Salish Behavioral Health Organization.
I moved a couple of things around, I'm gonna do my best, I still have one more. So I'm gonna do my best to attend that for all.
Okay.
Are they having that at Jamestown?
Jamestown.
Yeah, I'm kind of council.
1 o'clock?
10
10 o'clock.
and you just emailed an agenda over the weekend for that meeting. So you should have that in your email box somewhere.
This is the one we're gonna put all 3 commissioners?
Yeah, this is the one with all 3 county commissioners.
And when's the finance committee?
Thursday, next
24th.
Is that, and what time is it?
9
It's at
a.m.
9 a.m.
It's right here, once you add it to our calendar, I suspect 2 or more commissioners may be.
We also have
Do you want to do a special meeting notice then?
Probably.
A dedicated reserve for it. It's a bit complex, but at least the issue's been, you know, the flag's in the air on that one, and we may pick it again when budget comes up.
This particular one is dedicated, it's a dedicated tax fund for developmental disabilities under state statute. So it's really a nice thing that we have. Some counties don't have or have a very small one. We have always had good flexibility to be able to address these kind of needs.
Great.
We're scheduled for tomorrow, which I think time sensitive a little bit, so.
a little bit, and we didn't see anything in the least bit controversial or for the public, it's just an extension.
No change in your conditions.
We're 2 a.m. for tomorrow, thank you very much. Thank you. Next is the funding request for community services budget emergency.
Good morning, Jim. I came before before you on February 22nd, and I may not have been as clear as I should have been. What we were asking for is a debatable emergency here. The funds, at first I thought were just a supplemental budget, but it was not. We have to do the debatable emergency. Nothing else has changed.
Anything to add?
No, we just, again, in the second step with our budget director, Debbie, discovered that no, this money was in fact coming out of ending fund balance, not supplemental money that wasn't previously accounted for. So we had to change it to that, and she's added it to the budget hearing monthly on March 29th. So just wanted to let you know, you had seen it. It was, when it first came, it was a supplemental appropriation. It was not, that was in there.
So
Yes.
I assume she's working her 40 hours to get cut back.
Oh, that wouldn't be till after April 1st.
We're good. Okay, any questions? Thank you very much. Okay, now we have an agreement with Washington State